Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto was in Ray 0. If you guys enjoy this what if, then comment, like and subscribe. Let's go. Also the video goal is 10 likes, so let me know that you're interested in the series and you want the next part. Then go ahead and check out the other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave. Also share the video with your friends and link in the description. So let's go. Naruto Uzumaki. whatif said with an interested expression as he looked at the blonde, who gave everyone quite scare. Naruto-san, what's your occupation? I don't recognize you, so you must not be a known knight. He said this assuming the protective aura he had for Emilia was due to knights' loyalty towards their master, and the fact that he was standing with the knights. The blonde shinobi put his hands behind his head with a smile. Let's just say I'm a guest at Rosewall's mansion, he said with a light-hearted laugh, as if the situation they were just in never happened. More than one person looked at him with disbelief. How could someone just change their mood so radically? Emilia sighed with relief at Naruto's new behavior now that the insults that were thrown at her no longer hurt. She didn't like his action earlier, but she admitted him making a scene gave her enough time to once again gain her courage back. Hey Naruto, she called as she walked toward him with a hand in her chest, easing her breathing. What's up? He asked. Thank you, she said softly with a smile as she walked back to the center. Naruto smiled softly as he went back to the knight's side, but he noticed the stares from everyone. He blinked in confusion before he remembered the little joke that he played to the nobles, saying that he would do something unspeakable to them. He was amused, their faces were hilarious, and he taught them a great lesson for bad-mouthing Emilia, a win-win situation in his book. Did they seriously believe that he would destroy entire castle except Emilia? If so, that would be laughable. That taught them a lesson, he thought smugly. But what about the feeling you got from the girl in the white dress? Matabi asked out of the blue, reminding him of more pressing matters. That's a difficult question to answer with the lack of evidence. We can't just point fingers to her and call her evil just because she has a bad personality, much less now that she is a candidate to rule the land. And the worst part is, I don't know how she became a candidate. If it was an evil feeling that I got from her, then I cannot allow her to become the king. His negative sensing ability picked something up and it felt evil, but it was so fast that he couldn't determine whether it was a bad thought that passed through the girl's head or it was something far more sinister. It felt familiar, didn't it? Kurama asked. Yeah, almost like a spirit creature, similar to the ones that Emilia summons. Maybe, Anastasia is being influenced by a spirit creature. Can they even do that? Naruto thought as he looked at Anastasia quizzically. Something was definitely wrong here. He was thinking about the recent developments when a light rumbling sensation reached him, that he would have missed if it wasn't for his heightened senses. Just before the royal election began, smoke rose from the ground all over the candidates. Felt's scream was heard as Reinhard quickly reacted and cleared the smoke with a simple swing of his sheathed sword. The absence of smoke revealed Rom carrying Felt. Old man Rom. Naruto was surprised. How did Rom enter the throne? Looking down, he was further surprised to see a hole in the ground, which would explain how he got inside. He saw the knights unsheathe their swords and run toward Rom. The knights tackled him down on the ground as they tied his hands with rope. Naruto thought Reinhard brought the two with him, and by the looks of it, he was wrong. I don't know who you are, but for infiltrating the castle, you must die. Marco was shocked as he saw the knights' swords be split right in the middle by an unseen force. It was Naruto who broke their swords in one swing with his wind-covered kunai. Emilia was just stunned when she saw Naruto stop the knights from killing Rom. Naruto, stop. You'll only make this worse, she yelled. What is the meaning of this? Aren't you the follower of Emilia-sama? One of the knights spoke. I'm sorry, but I'm not allowing you to kill this man that is family to Felt, one of the candidates to become the king. Naruto said seriously as he looked at the knights. If you do, you'll have to face the consequences. Rom looked up in confusion at Naruto. Even though he knew him, he couldn't understand why he was going so far to save him. Family. Emilia thought with shock as she heard those words from Naruto. Fine, I'll do your stupid royal selection. Felt accepted as she pointed her finger at Rom. That old man is my family, so treat him with care. Very well, Marco said. Now that the little miss was participating once again in the election, the old man was untouchable unless Felt said otherwise. Naruto sheathed his kunai and watched the knights carry Rom to the treatment room. On the second thought, he realized something as he looked at Reinhard with narrowed eyes. Was this part of your plan? He asked. The timing for Rom's surprising appearance made it seem like something pointless and out of the blue. Rom had no reason to appear and take felt, it simply made no sense. Naruto smirked back and he walked back to the knight's side. He didn't buy a single word spoken by Reinhard. Attention everyone. All of the candidates are finally here. The royal selection will now begin. So, it's true. Emilia told me that you're one of the capital's most brilliant users of water magic. That means you can use healing magic, correct? Naruto asked. Yes, the water mana covers fields such as life and healing. Reinhard said as he made a hand gesture to Ferris. You were right about him. He's one of the best healers in the capital. That's awesome, Naruto said in amazement. He didn't know that water magic had healing properties because ninja normally used water to cut their enemy to pieces. In his world, the medical ninja use healing jutsu that heals people with chakra. However, in this world, the healer uses water magic and that heals people. It'll be very interesting if Naruto could bring Ferris to his dimension to meet the best medical ninja, Sakura Haruno. So, Ferris, Naruto said as he crossed his arms and looked at him. He backed away from him because he's a guy, the mental scars Haku left him acting up. Tell me about Crush. She doesn't look like the other candidates. Ah, you have good eyes. You see, Crush-sama isn't like the others because she's a skilled swordswoman. She'll show no mercy. Ferris said confidently in his lady's abilities. I see. The blonde said, it seemed they had a warrior running for king, that would explain her personality. Naruto, nice job you did back there. Reinhard said as Naruto looked at him in confusion. Everyone was disrespecting Emilia-sama because of her appearance. You silenced them and they showed respect to her immediately. I'm happy you stood up for her. You're a great follower. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to scare everyone. Naruto chuckled nervously as he scratched his back of the head. Yeah, he scared everyone pretty good with Kurama's bloodlust. Gosh, he hated those people who disliked Emilia just because she looks like Satella, a bunch of pretentious pricks. They made him pissed off at them. So, Naruto, I heard you already met Ferris and my grandfather at the mansion. Reinhard said. Grandfather? He asked, not reminding meeting someone like Reinhard before. His name is Wilhelm van Astria. You might remember his name. The red-haired knight said. I'm his grandson. Naruto blinked his eyes at Reinhard, starting to realize he's Wilhelm's grandson by looking at his eyes. Both of their eyes are the same and their presences were very similar. Really? He's your grandfather? I didn't know that, he said, having had more important things to think about. Reinhard chuckled at his reaction. That's all right, Naruto. Ferris told me that my grandfather had an interest in you. He said. The blonde shinobi was surprised that Wilhelm had an interest in him. He didn't know how to respond, but he should go meet Wilhelm again if he had a chance. If only to see what had Reinhard's grandpa so interested. I'm sure that old man will love to meet you again. Ferris said with a smile. If you're free, come visit Crush's house. Oh, and don't worry about her. I explained to her that you're a good person, so it should be okay. That'll be nice. I will come visit if I have the chance. Naruto said. Wow, it fits me perfectly. Naruto smirked as he looked at his new clothes after he brought them from the armor shop. He wore a black combat sweater with an orange line like a zipper, though his sleeves were pulled up. It was hot in the capital. Unlike in his world, he decided to wear an orange light armor beneath the sweater. He wore orange pants with a brown belt over his chest. Not gonna lie, you look badass, Sun said, having seen his fair share of warriors. Gotta change my style for this world. Naruto thought as he stretched his body out and didn't feel any problem. His new uniform wasn't bad at all. He thought his new armor would be too heavy for him to use in combat, since what they did in the capital was mostly bulky knight armor, but it felt very light and comfortable. Thankfully, he trained himself in his world because he lifted some weights and got advice from his friend, Rock Lee, so even if it was heavy he could still fight at his best. Alright, Naruto. Let's talk about the witch cult. Kurama said seriously, reminding him once again that he had enemies that needed his attention. Yeah, if I'm correct about their plan, is that they're coming after Emilia because she's a half-elf. Naruto thought as he sat down on the chair. Remember, they served Satella, so they're after her because she looks like her. Maybe they think she's Satella's reincarnation or something like that. What's your plan? Chomei asked. I'm going to have used Senin mode to search them before they do something stupid. They might also target a village, like what they did to Rem and Rams. You need to warn the villagers that the witch cultists will possibly go after them, and tell them to be on the lookout. Plus, you need to tell Emilia and the others, if there's someone that needs to know this is her. Isobu said, worried about Naruto's nice friend. Yeah, I know that. That's my plan, but I won't tell Rosewall, I still don't trust him. Naruto thought before he heard someone knock on the door. He walked towards it and opened it. Emilia. Hey, Naruto. The blonde shinobi blinked in slight surprise at her appearance, but he narrowed his eyes at the tone she used to greet him. She sounded very concerned, even hesitant. He didn't do any dangerous today because he's in the capital. Well, he used Kurama's chakra to scare everyone in the royal meeting, so that might be why she was. Here, I like your new uniform. It matches you, Emilia said with a little smile as she looked at his new uniform. Thanks. Come on in, Naruto said as he stepped aside and let her enter the room. He closed the door and turned to her. Emilia, what's up? Emilia didn't say anything to him when she walked past him until she stopped at the bed in front. She swallowed nervously and her face glowed a pink hue. Okay, sit here, she said as she pointed her finger at the ground. Huh, can't I just sit on the bed or a chair? Naruto asked amused as he crossed his arms. Just sit, she ordered as she sat on the ground and patted the spot next to her. Naruto stared at Emilia in confusion, but he just walked and sat on the ground with her figuring it wouldn't do any harm. Both of them sat together in silence, not uttering a word, and this was beginning to be a very awkward situation. Naruto was going to speak first, but her hand grabbed his hand and pulled him down on her lap. This sensation under his head, he looked it up at Emilia. Her face hovered above his. I know this position is weird. And, it tickles. The silver-haired girl said nervously as she laughed a little at how it felt to have his spiky hair in her lap. You're letting me rest in your lap. He blinked in surprise as his face glowed a red hue. Don't say it aloud. It's embarrassing. And no looking up here, she said as she poked her finger on his cheek to make him look away from her and covered his eyes with her hand. See, close your eyes. But, you're the one that pulled me in your lap, he said with a blush. He couldn't help it, but her lap feels very nice and soft, like a pillow. Though, what's this about? I want to talk with you, Naruto. Emilia said with a smile as she started to play his spiky hair with her hands. She stroked his hair gently and got surprised that it felt so soft, like a fox's furry. Why are you doing all of this for me? Naruto looked down at the ground for seconds and he turned his head to look up at her. It's time to tell her the truth. I hate people who badmouth you because you're a half-elf. I don't want you to go through that life, not like I did. He answered. Like you did? She asked. Yes, Naruto said as his face changed to a serious expression. He looked at her and his hair no longer having Emilia's soft hands covering them. Do you trust me? Can you keep a secret what I'm about to tell you? Emilia nodded to him, but she didn't know why his face was so serious. Of course, I trust you, and I won't tell anyone. She said. Naruto took a deep breath before he began to tell her about his life. 17 years ago, in the day I was born, my village was attacked by the Kyuubi, a sentient mass of pure destructive power and hate. Some even considered it to be a demon. The leader of the village used a sealing technique in exchange for his life to seal Kyuubi on a newborn child. He said as the silver-haired girl looked at him carefully. Emilia, that child was me. It was me who was tasked to keep the Kyuubi sealed away and to bear the hate of those that had lost their families to this being. The half-elf widened her eyes with a shock when he told her the newborn child was him. His village was attacked by the Kyuubi and the leader sealed a demon on a newborn child. So, the child was Naruto. The leader placed the Kyuubi on him after he was given birth. That sounded so cruel, horrible. Why did the leader place the seal on him? Did you remember the yellow magic you saw me use? That magic wasn't mine. It belongs to my friend, Kurama. He's called Biju and he's the Kyuubi. Have you heard that word before? Naruto asked. No, I've never heard of that type of creature before. But how come, if it was such a powerful, why do people never talk about it? She asked. Because Kyuubi didn't exist here. Emilia, I'm not from here. I come from a different dimension, one where shinobi lives and uses chakra. Naruto said. Hearing the truth from him, Emilia was once again shocked. Why you're not from here? She said. It's true. In my world, everyone uses chakra to use techniques called ninjutsu. It's very similar to your world, just not with magic. Naruto said. Emilia couldn't believe he told her the truth about his origins. Jumping from rooftop to rooftop, running too fast, and the yellow chakra, it all made sense now. His abilities were new to her because he comes from a different world. Why are you telling me all of this? Your secret, she wondered. Because, Naruto paused as he struggled to tell her that he'll leave her behind and return to his world. Should he tell her truth or not? Because I was summoned here to protect your world, or at least that's what I'll do. He settled with a not yet. I see. Emilia said. You said Kurama is your friend, why did he attack your village? It was Kurama who attacked the village, but he didn't want to do. He did because someone controlled his mind and ordered him to attack my village. Then, why did the village leader sealed him inside you? The leader of the village was my father. He placed the seal in me because he knew I could learn to use that curse and use it to become stronger. He smiled as he pictured his parents. To tell you the truth, I don't remember what my parent looks like. I've been an orphan child, and I was always on my own. You see, it was similar to your life. People hated me and treated me badly because I had the Kyuubi. They were afraid of me. He was cut off from continuing his story by a hand that covered his mouth. Naruto looked up and saw Emilia drop the tears from her eyes. He could hear her sobbing, so he stops telling her his life, figuring it hit home too close. Yes, he knew that the story would hurt her feelings because their pasts were in various aspects the same. Their lives sucked because they went through a lot, but they could both come out on top, and even stronger than before. Without saying any words, Naruto reached his hand up to her face and used his thumb to clean her tears. No more, no more, Emilia sobbed as she shook her head. I am so sorry about your life. I'm really selfish. She didn't know his life was like hers. Both of them went through pain and suffering. They're the same in various aspects, but Naruto's life was worse than hers. He was an orphan child that had the Kyuubi inside of him. He most likely grew with people hating him, and what the people hated him for was something not generations ago, but it was something recent with their hate and wounds fresh. Poor Naruto, Emilia didn't want him to continue telling her his life, it broke her heart. No, you're not. Look at me and I'm going to tell you the best part. Naruto said as the half-elf looked at him with her vision blurred with tears. He continued to clean her tears. In the end, I finally got to meet my parents. I never hated my mom or my dad. I know that I was loved before the Kyuubi was inside of me. So I'm happy. I'm glad that they were my parents. I made friends, and the curse that plagued me was used to better myself, and to be hailed as a hero by my village. This feeling from him, it melted Emilia's heart and caught her by surprise. Even though his parents placed Kyuubi inside of their son, he still forgave them for what they did to him. Naruto had such a good soul and was such a good person from the bottom of his heart. You never told me about your mother. Can you tell me about her? Emilia asked. Well, she's strong, kind, and scary, he said with a sweat drop. Scary. Why do you say that? You have no idea, mothers are scary. When he said that, Emilia giggled at him. Naruto was too silly in how he described his mom. You're too silly, Naruto. She said with a slight smile. Of course, I am silly. I'm the guy who can make you laugh about anything. Naruto smiled as he made her giggles again. It was nice to hear her cute giggling and to see that the flow of tears was no longer there. Do you have another question, Emilia? Last one. You said Kurama is a nine-tailed beast. Are they more of him? She asked as she yawned. Good ears. Yes, they are 9 of Biju. They're inside of me. Emilia widened her eyes with shock. She was making this far too many times, though talking with Naruto made her do strange things. Really? Then, why? Why did you accept them? She asked. Because they're my friends and my partners. They trust me with their powers. Naruto said, chuckling slightly at the fight Matabi had with Kurama about not weeping on his shoulder. I understand. They seem to think highly of you. Emilia said as she stopped stroking his hair and the blonde guy got up from her lap. Then, she yawned again as she stretched out her arms. You should go sleep, Amelia. Tomorrow, we're heading back." He paused as a hand touched his cheek and made him blink. He found himself staring at violet eyes. Naruto can see so many emotions in there, so many to the point he couldn't read all of them. Her eyes were beautiful to him with such a purple color. Jiraiya once said that his eyes made his emotions very clear, that such expressive eyes were very unique. Clearly he hadn't met Amelia. The feeling on his cheek from her hand is so soft and warm. It made him grab her hand with his, not letting it go. The half-elf couldn't help but look at him with a sense of sadness. The look on his face showed kindness, respect, and dignity. For some reason, Amelia started to understand his feelings and his past. There was a reason why she found sadness in his eyes before, because Naruto lost everything who was precious to him. His parents are dead because they sacrificed their lives for him, and he left the world he was from behind. It seemed Puck was right to assume Naruto's past. Not many young people loved their home and family, but Naruto did. Looking at his eyes, she saw pain but also experience. How long had he been fighting? Amelia. Amelia heard his gentle voice as his hand rose to touch her cheek. It made her shiver at first, but she allowed the contact moments later. As Naruto's fingers brushed across her face, her blush intensified various levels. She lowered her face to look at him clearly. Naruto and Amelia's foreheads practically touched. Closing their eyes, both felt their emotions. Both of them shared their feelings and memories to show each other that they were similar. Loss, suffering, pain, hope. As the two pulled away from each other, they looked into each other's eyes, content with being with the one that resembled them so much. The blonde shinobi was the first who pulled away, but two hands stopped him as he started to look at Amelia until she leaned in closer and kissed his forehead. His voice was caught in his throat as the half-elf pulled away from him with a smile on her face. "Good night, Naruto. I hope you have beautiful dreams," she said as she stood up and walked toward the door to leave his room. After she left, Naruto didn't know what to say. His eyes started to have tears as he touched them and looked at them as if looking at an alien. These tears were real, but why? He just got a kiss on his forehead by Amelia. Has she experienced this before? Why did such a simple gesture meant so much? Amelia went in her room and closed the door behind her. She jumped into her bed and pulled her blanket up that she covered her body. She couldn't believe what she just did back there with Naruto. Amelia learned the truth about Naruto. He came from another world. The silver-haired girl looked at her hand that touched Naruto's cheek. The feeling that remained was nice and warm like the other time. She saw his azure eyes full of feelings, and understood what life he had been through. When Amelia remembered Naruto touched her cheek, her face glowed a red hue and she began to cover herself with the blanket and roll in her bed. She was too embarrassed and almost died from that. "I can't believe it," Amelia thought, remembering she kissed Naruto's forehead. She didn't know why she did that, but she thought that could give him a good dream. "Where the hell am I?" Naruto asked himself as he's standing in a dark void with nothing in sight. Kurama. Everyone. No one answered him. He tried to use Biju telepathy to communicate with them, but it didn't work. This dark void was so cold, so quiet. "Naruto." A quiet, female voice called out to Naruto. The voice was sweet and pleasant, but the feeling he got from it was cold. "Who's there?" he asked as he looked around again in the dark void while he's walking. He found a figure. The blonde shinobi stayed sharp as he began to walk toward it. Then, he saw familiar shadowy arms fly toward him, beginning to touch his cheeks as he tried to evade them. They weren't trying to make him feel pain. But the feeling he got from them. It felt so cold, like they've been stuck in ice for a long time. "I love you." Hearing the familiar female voice speaking, Naruto finally remembered it. Plus, now he could hear her voice clearly. "This voice," he said as he began to run toward the person without a second thought. "I'm sorry." Naruto was surprised when the female apologized to him. Her voice was sad and in pain. Why did she say sorry? Without hesitance, he ran much faster than his normal speed. At that moment, he heard a cracking noise. He looked around to see that the dark void started to break. A bright light shined through the crack and beamed at the ground. Then, he realized that the whole place was breaking apart like glass and it wouldn't let him go near the female. "Wait!" he yelled, but it was too late for him. The dark void cracked apart and turned into a bright light. His eyes were opened by the sunlight and the carriage's noise assaulted his ears. He looked around and saw a silver-haired girl hovering above him. She was using her lap as a pillow for his head and her hands were gently combing through his hair. "Emilia," Naruto asked, "you fell asleep while traveling back to our mansion. So, I used my lap for you as a pillow," Emilia said with a blush. "Oh, thanks," Naruto replied with a blush as he got up from her lap. Damn, her lap was very soft, like a divine pillow. That was a strange dream, but it felt so real. The dark void was so cold. The female voice was filled with sadness and suffering. She seemed like she knew him from before. "Naruto?" Emilia asked in concern as she looked at him. "I'm fine, Emilia. How much till we arrive?" he asked. "Almost there, Naruto-kun." Rem smiled as she glanced back to the blonde man, more focused on her riding back to the mansion. Then, she suddenly felt something dangerous coming toward her. She looked around the area, but there were no enemies. The wind stopped for a few seconds. The sound of birds chirping scared as they flew away from the forest was loud. This was a warning. It warned her something is coming at them. Rem shook her head and looked at them. Naruto and Emilia looked at her with worry on their faces. "Are you okay?" Emilia asked as Naruto changed seats to get closer to Rem. "Do you feel something?" he asked as he detected worried emotions from her. He knows something wrong with her, or at least troubling her. The blue-haired maid nodded to him. "Yes, I felt a disturbance," she answered. "Disturbance?" Emilia asked as she sat next to Naruto. "What do you mean?" "We'll talk at the mansion. My sister and Beatrice need to know this, too." "So, you think the mansion is going to get attacked by intruders?" Naruto asked. Everyone gathered in the mansion when they returned from the capital, except Rosewall who wasn't here. The clown guy had to go somewhere else because someone messaged him that they needed him to go there. "Yes, Naruto-kun. I felt something that will attack here, but I'm not so sure when will they come," Rem said. Naruto knew that the witch cult were after Emilia because she's a half-elf. But, the problem is he doesn't know when they will come. They could come any day, attack the village first before going to the mansion. The conversation was serious because the witch cult will kill anyone, even the children. He couldn't relax until he knows that the threat of the witch cult was dealt with. However, he can use Senin mode and try to sense them, either by their energy signature or by their evil feelings. "Naruto." Emilia's voice interrupted his thoughts so he looked at her. "Oh yes, what is it?" he asked. "You were silent for a few seconds. Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm okay, Emilia," he replied as he looked at the group. "Rem, I think I know who is coming, you probably won't like it." "The witch cult," Ram said. Naruto felt pure anger just oozing from every pore in their bodies for what they did to them. They really hate them a lot. This could be a big problem, Puck said with a serious look on his face as he flew out from Emilia's necklace. "The witch cult will kill whoever they see as a threat. They sometimes torture and kill just for fun. We can't let them destroy the village and," he looked at Leah. "Me?" Emilia looked at Puck in surprise. He nodded, looking at Naruto and the others. "Yes, Leah. They're here because of your resemblance to Satella and your status as a half-elf," he said. "Wait a minute," Naruto said as he looked at Puck with narrowed eyes. "You didn't tell her that the witch cult was after her. Why?" The cat spirit lied on Emilia's hand, and looked at Naruto as he pawed the back of his furry head. "I understand you're getting upset with me because I didn't tell Leah about this. If Leah asked me, I would have told her, but she didn't ask," he said. "But still, you should have just warned her about the witch cult," the blonde shinobi said as he crossed his arms. "We can have this conversation later," Beatrice said. "We have the witch cult coming here. Can you guys beat the witch cult?" Naruto asked curiously as he looked at them. Of course, they know how to fight, but he had a bad feeling about all this. "We can fight, but I don't think we can take them down on our own," Rem said as she looked at Puck. "Puck is the only one who can fight them. So, there's a chance that they can win against the witch cult with Puck, but they didn't know how powerful they were nor how many troops they had. Honestly, he and Puck could pretty much take them down on their own. But, what if they come at night? That means Puck can't fight because of his limit, he wouldn't be able to defend the village. Though, he preferred working with Puck, even though he could clone himself. All it took was one hit to kill the clones, and as previously thought they didn't know their power nor their numbers. Well, Naruto is here with them and the battle shouldn't be that hard without Puck. The blonde shinobi could do anything to destroy the witch cult without letting them near the village. He didn't want to tell them the truth except Emilia, who knew everything about him. He wasn't ready. Anyways, he'll have to tell them the truth in time. Just in case he wouldn't use his stronger techniques, they would cause too much damage, make people make questions, and that would put him on the spotlight. Hold on. What if they come tonight? I won't be active. Puck said. What should we do? Should we contact Rosewall-sama? Ram asked. We don't need his help. Beatrice said as everyone looked at her. Her eyes were serious as she looked at Naruto. We have Naruto, so we don't have to worry, right? Right, we probably won't need his help. Naruto said. Damn, the little girl caught him really good with her eagle eyes. If Puck can't make it tonight, I can destroy all of them. That's impossible. I don't believe you. Ram said. He's telling the truth. Emilia said as the maid looked at her. Naruto told me the truth about his powers. I believe in him. I believe him too, sis. Rem said. Ram looked at her sister's eyes. They're deadly serious and full of trust towards Naruto. Though, he did save Rem and stopped her berserk form, very easy she might add. Tell us, Naruto. Puck said. What should we do? Before we do this, I want you guys to know about me. I told Emilia and Beatrice because I could trust them, but I didn't tell them about their powers, my powers. Naruto said as he looked at everyone. Emilia and Beatrice, I told you too that I have 9 bijus inside of me, but you guys should know about this. Once I have 9 bijus, I can use the 9 elements they're aligned with. What? Everyone screamed at the same time. Naruto plugged his ears several seconds after hearing their scream. Yeah, I can use 9 elements from the 9 bijus. They're powerful, but their chakras are dangerous. I want you guys to remember that, or else I'll end up hitting someone by accident. That's incredible. Emilia was amazed. What type of elements? Sand, lava, boil, lightning, water, fire, wind. Okay, that's enough. Puck said as he made a paw gesture to stop him. Damn, the blonde human was a lot more powerful than Rosewall. So, Puck was right about Naruto all along. This human revealed to them that had 9 bijus inside of him, whatever those were, maybe spirits, and can use their powers to wipe out the witch cult. Using all of the 9 bijus powers, that sounded like a really powerful force. He did remember the aura Naruto unleashed the day before in the throne room to shut everyone up. That must be from one of the 9 bijus. The cat spirit is going to be honest about the blonde shinobi. If that boy was telling the truth, there's a chance he could take him down with his true form. Maybe Naruto can defeat Rosewall. I think we should tell the villagers about the witch cult. Emilia suggested. It'll be better to warn them that they're coming here, and if possible evacuate them. I see your point, Emilia. I can summon my clones to guard them, just in case. Naruto said. But evacuating all the villagers to the capital will be difficult. Half of them will go to the capital. Ram said. I will lead the other half to safety in the sanctuary. Sanctuary. Naruto wondered, he never heard of that place before. It's an old village. If I'm right about this, Rosewall-sama will be heading there now. Ram said. Good. He said. I think I have an idea. What is it? That's strange, Naruto said, checking for the witch cult around in the forest. He didn't found any of them, and they didn't come last night. However, he still stayed on guard. There was no telling when they would come. If it was today or not was impossible to tell without their signatures. They could probably ambush the village if Naruto went too far into the forest, so he goes back to the village and checked how the villagers were doing. The good thing was that Puck can fight as it was early in the morning. How was it? No witch cult? One of the villagers asked. No, I can't find any of them, but don't worry. I'll keep on searching, Naruto said. Do you think they will come here today? What if they target us first? Mild asked, panicking as her body shook with fear. She had to stay here until the carriages that would escort them to the capital arrived, though it was becoming increasingly difficult. After their plan of action had been decided, Naruto and Emilia told the whole village that the witch cult was coming. Everyone was scared, why wouldn't they? Those people killed for enjoyment, not to mention the sick tortures they could be subjected to if the cultists weren't in a forgiving mood. Naruto understood why they were scared. They didn't want to end up like the other villages in the past. But they needed to calm down and not to be afraid of them. These people destroyed Rem and Ram's village, that just pissed him off. Not only were Rem and Ram in danger, Amelia was too. May the blessing of the spirits be with you. Amelia prayed as her hand was placed on Naruto's heart. Be careful, Naruto. Believe me, Amelia. I won't let you down. Naruto said with a smile as he looked at Rem and the others. I will let you people know when I'm done searching. Be careful, Naruto-kun. Rem said. Don't die. Beatrice. Naruto chuckled at the last words from Beatrice when he had the flashback. She sure had a bad time communicating her feelings. They're coming. I can sense them. Kurama warned. Right. I'm going to warn them. Naruto thought with a nod as he planned to walk back to the mansion, seeing as the carriages had already arrived, but he saw the man in normal clothes with brown hair and green eyes, carrying crates and barrels into a carriage, alone. However, he seemed tired for carrying the heavy things. Hey, let me help you, he said as he rushed toward him with a smile and helped him to pick the things for him. After they put the barrels and crates into the carriage, the villager man thanked him for helping him. Thank you so much, the man said wiping his brow. No problem Tt Ibeo. What's your name? Naruto asked. My name is Kedi muttered. I'm a merchant. Kedi was silenced by a sharp pain in the middle of his chest. He looked down to see that the still smiling Naruto had plunged a kunai with blue energy around it directly into his chest. He coughed blood as he got slashed in half by a swing of the kunai. He widened his eyes with shock at his swift defeat since his brain still worked. His trembling eyes looked at Naruto with hate and fear, only to receive a sandal to the face that ended his life. The blonde shinobi won't let the cultists live because they murdered villagers and tortured children. He believed in second chances, but this people were far too gone in the darkness. He will find them and eliminate every one of them. Letting them hurt people wasn't an option. His mission was to save the world and protect people from evil. Naruto heard a scream from somewhere in the village. Without second thoughts, he rushed to the scream until he saw the cultists holding the villagers with their daggers on the necks. He was right all along. The witch cultists are using the villagers as their hostages, probably using them for Amelia to get here. Before the fight starts, his eyes narrowed in confusion at them. The cultists are bowing to Naruto. They don't seem to want to fighting him, only focusing on the villagers. They think that I'm one of them because I smell like a witch. Naruto thought as his hold on the kunai tightens, before he relaxed and showed a smirk at cultists. Clones, do your work. The cultists were confused as they looked at him, but the villagers that were being held vanished and appeared behind them. They stabbed the cultists on the back of their necks with their kunais, killing them instantly. The villagers transformed back into Naruto's appearance and gave their leader thumbs up. The villagers were already gone. Everyone in this village were actually clones. Well, that was easy. The clone said. Yeah, the other clones should. Naruto heard screams from other places in the village. There it is. The other clones killed the cultists. Now what? The other clone asked. You guys stay and guard. There'll be more of them, Naruto said as he opened a mirror call media. Okay, we'll be careful, Amelia said as she closed the media mirror after she's done talking with Naruto. They're coming. Yeah, I know, the clone Naruto said as he stood between Amelia and Rem on a tree. They're outside of the mansion a couple meters away. The other clones are in other places where the cultists were going, so they'll be fine without worry. Now, the clone, Amelia, and Rem are focusing on the enemies who were coming in this direction. Rem sensed their auras almost approaching their position as she gripped the morning star and nodded to her allies. Amelia was prepared with ice magic and had Puck with her. The two girls are fully prepared for the cultists. The clone Naruto looked at them. He better get ready, too. Naruto. Puck said. Yeah. What's that? He asked as he looked at the brown gourd on his waist. You'll see. When they saw the witch cultists running past them, the clone Naruto hit the signal, and Amelia launched pre-prepared ice spears at them. Rem and the clone Naruto jumped down on the ground, starting to attack them in close combat. Thanks to Naruto's training and meditation, Rem was able to control her Oni mode well without losing control. Also, her movements have improved, as seen when she dodged the several daggers from the cultists as she swung Morningstar at their heads, making them literally pop like balloons. She then shot multitudes of ice spikes from her other hand at the rest of the group. Amelia moved on to another tree because the cultists spotted her and aimed at her by throwing their daggers. The half-elf continued to shoot ice spears at them and called out Puck's name. The spirit creature deflected the daggers all the while shooting at the cultists with ice crystals. Then, the two landed on the ground safely. The clone Naruto jumped into the air, and slashed one cultist down with his kunai. He goes after the others who were targeting him. The witch cultists all used fireball magic on him while he's charging at them, but suddenly Sand grabbed their arms with an iron-like grip. Then, Sand crushed their arms making them scream and stop their fireball magic. The blonde shinobi dashed toward them and slashed them by several swings with his kunai. These cultists were down, but there were still two left. Sabaku Q, Sand coffin. He yelled as the Sands shot toward the two last guys and trapped them into it. Emilia and the other two looked at Naruto who controlled the Sand. Sabaku Soso, Sand burial. He clenches his fists to cause the Sands to crush them. He sighed with relief that he and his friends defeated the cultists without letting them kill the villagers. The clone Naruto had a good report from Kurama. His relieved smile was shown because the other clones exterminated the cultists. The members of the witch cult were dead. Good news. My clones exterminated the other witch cultists. He said with a smile as he looked at his friends. We'll be fine here. That's good. Emilia smiled, feeling a little bad because she was celebrating someone's death. They deserved it though. While the plan went without a hitch, we can't stay here after we killed the witch cult. It's not safe. Puck said. Yeah, I see your point. Hey, Rem, when are we going to get our ride? The clone Naruto asked. Well, you told the leader of the village that you need a ride for us. So, it'll be here in time. Rem said. Good, good. The real Naruto was running to find the base of the witch cult and the leader of the group. His eyes weren't sapphire anymore but they were yellow, with toad-like pupils with orange pigmentation around his eyes. He had good reports from his clones and Emilia, saying that they defeated the cultists. That was an easy and quick battle. Naruto was surprised to learn that one of the witch cultists bowed to one of his clone because he has the witch miasma thinking he was one of them. Anyways, the cultists are dead for good and their leader is the last person. You ready? Kurama asked. Damn right I am. Naruto thought as he went out of the forest and found the cave where the enemies came out of. He then deactivated the Sennin mode because his natural energy could blow his cover off, if his witch miasma didn't do it first. There wasn't anybody there in the cave as he sensed for their mana, so maybe all of the cultists were gone already. Or they died already to him and his friends, all except their leader. Naruto sensed an aura coming from inside a path in the cave. A person came out of the cave with a creepy smile. His skin was a sickly white. He had short dark green hair and his emotionless eyes were gray. He wore a black, green, and red robe along with clerical attire. When he saw Naruto, his smile got a lot bigger. I am a Sin Archbishop representing Sloth, Betelgeuse Romani Conti. At your service. I am a Sin Archbishop representing Sloth, Betelgeuse Romani Conti. At your service. Betelgeuse said as he bowed to Naruto. Naruto was aware that he had witch miasma on him. The possibility that he was being confused with a witch cult member was pretty high, so quickly weighing his options he decided to play along, for now. Beating this guy was important and had to be done, but he had questions he wanted answers. A pleasure to meet you, great Sin Archbishop, sir. I see you were waiting for me. He said as he bowed to him in return. Of course. I always welcome everyone, beloved children, blessed with love. Love, love, the love from our beloved mistress. He said, almost shouting in glee at what he thought was a new member in their witch cult. Their beloved mistress. Obviously, Betelgeuse was talking about a witch, more specifically Satella. He must feel very close to her, seeing as he said word, love, an annoying amount of times, or maybe he was just annoyed that he was talking to a twisted villain. Who knows? Seeing as the very much, crazy Archbishop was very happy to talk about who he thought was Satella, Naruto decided to use the opportunity to acquire information. You're very close to the mistress. May I ask what's your relationship with her? The blonde asked with a false, eager smile. Love, with love. She's the most beautiful being, she believed in me. What she needs from me now is the ordeal. Betelgeuse yelled with love as he jumped in front of Naruto, who held himself back from punching him right there and then. With this ordeal, we must test her. To learn if this half-devil is a worthy vessel, if she is worthy to put our witch into her. Put the witch into a half-devil. Worthy vessel. Yes. If she is worthy, the witch will possess her. If not, she will discard her. If she proves a worthy vessel for the witch, then the witch will be reborn into this world on the coming fated day. Half-devil, Emilia. Naruto thought. I see. So, the witch cult's goal is to capture Emilia and bring her to a trial. Then, use some kind of ritual to summon Satella, and then she would possess Emilia to be reborn into this world because she's a half-elf. It seemed some of his worries were true. This man needed to be put down immediately for everyone's sake. Naruto wouldn't allow this to happen to Emilia. Do you have the gospel? His voice stopped Naruto from his thought process as he looked at him. The gospel? He asked with a confused expression on his face. My brain trembles, he said, offended as he took out a book. Presentation of the gospel, proof of love, proof. Huh, my gospel has no account of you. Oh, I see, give me a second. Naruto said as he began to search himself for the book. Aha, finally, I found it. Betelgeuse gave him a big creepy smile while watching him pull out his gospel. He waited for the blonde boy to reveal the book to him, but got confused when instead he pulled something out from his pocket that clearly had no resemblance to the gospel. What is this? He asked as the blonde boy showed a middle finger to him. Fuck you, Naruto said as he manipulated the sand from his gourd and formed it into a fist to punch Betelgeuse in his face. If one had the ability to see in slow motion, or perceive really fast actions, one could see the first impacting into the face of the madman and force him to swallow some of his teeth. However, a normal person would only see the archbishop get flung into a wall with his face looking like a bloody mess. The blonde shinobi activated the Sennin mode and prepared to fight the Sin Archbishop of Sloth, not willing to let the man pull any tricks on him. Naruto saw his enemy starts to get up, so he charged him. He threw a slash to Betelgeuse with his kunai, but the archbishop's body slid away unnaturally before the blade could end his life. That wasn't a dodge. There was something that grabbed Betelgeuse's body and saved his life. Concentrating on his now heightened senses, Naruto could now see several hands, completely made out of magic, coming out of the man's back. They seemed like a camouflaged version of his chakra arms and seemed to work similarly, but since they were made out of energy, they were completely obvious to him now. Betelgeuse clenched his remaining teeth and glared at Naruto, who he no doubt saw as a traitor. Why? He demanded to know as he bit his fingers. I wasn't with you to begin with, Betelgeuse. Naruto replied as he remained on the frog fighting stance. You didn't recognize and still revealed precious information to me, you're an idiot. Maybe, next time, check your eyes, Datbeo. In anger the man actually pierced his skin, drawing blood, adding more to his already bloody face. Authority of Sloth, unseen hand. Betelgeuse yelled as he unleashed multiple shadow hands that flew toward the blonde boy. Naruto dodged the normally invisible hands and the ones that came to close him were blocked by the sand. He slashed several hands with a kunai overflowing with wind chakra. The blonde quickly destroyed all of the unseen hand and Betelgeuse was now unable to defend himself. He reached out his hand to command the sand move forward. Betelgeuse tried to evade but it was too late. The sand caught his arm and he had no way of prying it of him with no unseen hand. Naruto clenched his fist to make the sand to crush Betelgeuse's arm, turning his bones into a fine powder. Blood tainted the sand and a few drops were falling to the ground. This left him without a hand and bleeding profusely. Now able to regrow his unseen hand, he commanded them to grab a tree outside of the cave in hopes of getting as far away from Naruto as possible. The hands obeyed him and pulled their owner away from the sand, but in doing so, he had to force his shoulder to detach from his now useless arm. He almost wished he hadn't done that, the pain was unbearable. But before he could get out of the cave, Naruto appeared at his right side, grabbed his other arm and pulled him toward him, dislocating his now only arm. He used his momentum to punch the right side of his face with ridiculous force, actually popping his right eyeball. Betelgeuse flew toward the same rock wall and crashed into it, leaving second imprint its surface. Naruto landed on the ground safely, and his sand game inside the gourd. You can see my unseen hand. Impossible. Betelgeuse yelled with rage and no small amount of agonizing pain as he used unseen hand once again. However, this time he combined them into two big hands. Die. Just die. Naruto's eyes were sharp as he followed his every movement, and assumed a relaxed stance. The fists were quickly closing in, and at the last second, he used a technique a certain slug Sanin was well known for. He threw his fists to meet the giant ones and at the last second used chakra to power up his already powerful punches. This resulted in an explosive force, and the fists never stood a chance as he made contact, exploding them into particles of magic. The explosive force was enough to knock back the madman into the wall he seemed to love crashing into. That man could take a beating even if he seemed very fragile at first. Seeing him on the ground, Naruto opened his palm and created a Rasengan determined to end the fight once and for all. He charged towards Betelgeuse that had once again picked himself up and was sweating bullets as he saw the powerful yellow technique. Dona! Betelgeuse yelled as he quickly created a wall of earth to protect himself from him. But, he was shocked when Naruto appeared in front of him before the wall of the earth closed completely. Take this, Rasengan! The blonde shinobi yelled as he smashed Betelgeuse into his gut and twisted it hard to make a horrible friction mark into the man's gut. Then, the Rasengan expanded and exploded, sending Betelgeuse's ruined form deeper into the same wall. Naruto walked over to the earth wall and checked to see if Betelgeuse was dead. He found the body there, unmoving and not breathing. Maybe, it was a good idea to call Emilia now that the fight was over. He looked down at the ground and found the book on the ground that belonged Betelgeuse. He picked it up and opened it to read it. What's this language? He asked himself, but he kept it to read it later. Naruto opened the mirror media to call Emilia and saw her face when she answered. He smiled at her when he found her relieved look. She was probably worried about him. The blonde shinobi was going to speak to her, but suddenly, he felt as if something slammed in his head. He dropped the mirror media while it was still on. Naruto! Naruto! Are you there? Emilia yelled in the mirror media, her concern palpable. Naruto fell to his knee down on the ground and held his head in pain. This feeling, he felt like he wanted to vomit. His senses began to go wild. Feeling for the foreign energy, he found it inside himself. It was the same energy that Archbishop had. Betelgeuse was trying to possess his body. Ah, my brain is trembling. He yelled, but that wasn't him who said those lines. However, Naruto's mental defenses were strong. I won't let you control me. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Teach him a lesson, you guys. Leave it to us, brat. Kurama said with an evil smile. What would his container do without him, really? He has that stupid arrogant face again. If he doesn't stop, his head will get too big. The seven-tailed Kabutomushi said. With a shake of her head, the other tailed beasts just chuckled. Betelgeuse was trying to take control of the young man that had killed him. He was struggling but needed a new body now that the last one was no longer useful. He was in a white space that generally represented the mindscape of an average human being, and while the young man was significantly, it didn't make any difference to him. This body would belong to him. Suddenly he was transported to a sewer like a place, the sudden change in scenery making him fall on his back. He looked around him in a frenzy. He now had no grip into the young man's mind, leaving him powerless. What's this place? What's this place? He found his voice caught in his throat when he looked at a giant human-like hand. Following the limb upwards, he met the gazes of 9 gargantuan creatures that were looking down directly at him, the one in the center projecting so much hatred it was beginning to drown him. The beasts smiled evilly as they saw the human enter the dark place. Welcome to your nightmare. Shukaku was looking down at the stupid human with every intention of just swallowing him whole. Betelgeuse immediately cut the connection with the young man's mind, a very dangerous place he decided, and was forced to go back into his beaten-up body. Naruto got his senses back and found the injured Betelgeuse lying on the ground in front of him, alive again. Nice try, but you won't able to get in my mind again. He said. This cannot be. Betelgeuse yelled with rage as he used unseen hand once again and let it take over his whole body. He was desperate. Naruto jumped back from Betelgeuse and watched him transform into what he assumed was his true form. It was an abomination. His whole body was that of a huge bug-like creature that was surrounded with unseen hand magic. In that case, it was the time Naruto used a more destructive jutsu against that monster. He opened his hand and created a Rasengan, but he flooded it with wind nature chakra. 4 blades were created around the central Rasengan core, giving it the appearance of a Fuma shuriken. It also gives off a loud screeching noise. Who are you? Why have you attacked us as we worked so diligently for our plans? What are you? Just what are you? Betelgeuse demanded in a different voice as he charged towards Naruto. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, a shinobi and the friend of a half-elf, Emilia. Naruto said as he adopted a pitching stance and aimed at Betelgeuse. Futen. Rasenshuriken wind style, Rasenshuriken. He threw the Rasenshuriken at Betelgeuse and it directly hit him, pushing him back away from him. The Rasenshuriken detonated, producing a vortex of wind in the immediate area. Naruto had to shield himself from the blast. He heard Betelgeuse's painful screams while he's getting sliced by countless microscopic wind blades. This was the end for Betelgeuse, he couldn't escape from the Rasenshuriken. Naruto, please stay alive. Emilia said as she ran in the forest to look for Naruto after she lost connection with him. She got very worried when that happened, so she told Rem to stay at the mansion and ran after Naruto. She saw what happened to him on the mirror media because it was still on. He dropped the mirror media and she heard this. His voice was the same, but it wasn't from the Naruto she knew. His words were different, it wasn't like him to say things with such insanity. That couldn't be. Did someone actually possess Naruto? Emilia shook her head and chose not to believe in that. She knew that he wouldn't give up that easily, he would win. Leah, calm down. We all know that Naruto won't. I can't. Emilia yelled, wanting to believe Puck but being unable to stop until she sees Naruto. She needed to see that the worst hadn't happened. He promised me. I promise I will make you happy for me and for Puck. The half-elf remembered his promise, that he'll make her happy. He wanted her to be happy and have a good life for him, for Puck and more importantly, for herself. She doesn't want him to forget that promise and leave her behind. She didn't want to be alone, not again. Her heart was beating so fast. Emilia doesn't understand why her heartbeat is that. Her heart was beating for Naruto because she had a special feelings, but she didn't know which ones. This feeling was something new. She didn't know if it was worry from him possibly leaving her, or something else, perhaps a special kind of joy. Leah, you've changed. Puck thought as he looked at his daughter, Emilia. His daughter has become so strong since Naruto crashed into her life, stronger than ever before. Stronger than, dare he say, even Emilia thought was possible. That boy knew almost everything about her and understood her and her feelings. It was natural considering their very similar upbringing. Puck started to like Naruto because of the way he treats her and teaches Leah to stand up for herself. Maybe, no, only the future could tell if he was the one. Puck, what's this feeling? Puck looked at Leah as he saw her being pushed by a blast. The spirit creature flew out and hanged on Leah's shoulder as he started to create ice wall in front of them for protection. They stayed behind their shield until the blast was finally over. That blast was strong and almost made Emilia experience flying, but luckily Puck helped her using the ice wall to protect her. What was that strong blast? Where did it come from? Emilia asked. I don't know, but it came from that direction. Puck pointed ahead of them as he sensed incredible mana release. That mana explosion was too powerful. I've never seen this before. A few seconds later, the blast has stopped and the two looked out from the ice wall. Emilia and Puck nodded at each other as they continued to try and find Naruto. They got out of the tree line and went where the signature was, and for sure where Naruto was, but they found a massive hole on the ground. Who did this? Do you know, Puck? Emilia asked. I've never seen this in my life. Puck said as he looked at the size of the hole. The size was freaking massive, his true form could totally fit there with no problems. Emilia looked around to find Naruto, but he was nowhere to be seen. She had a worried expression on her face, already fearing the worst. She shook her head, she had to think positively. She knows he's here somewhere. Emilia. The half-elf heard a familiar voice behind her. She turned to see the person who called her name. Purple eyes met yellow ones. Looking at the blonde spiky hair and whisker marks, it was revealed to indeed be Naruto. He looked a little different, mainly the eyes and his rectangular pupils. Emilia. Repeated Naruto concerned. She just stood there looking at him as if seeing something strange, but he was worried for nothing as she flung herself into his arms. He kept his balance from the surprise attack and looked down at her. Emilia, what's wrong? I was so worried about you. I'm sorry for disobeying your order, but I couldn't help it when I saw you in trouble. Amelia cried in his arms. I'm okay, Amelia. He replied as he hugged her back, assuring her he was there for her. Then, he saw Puck, who flew toward him. Hey, Puck, any news? The cultists are dead, he answered him, noticing the toad eyes. Your eyes. What happened to them, and since when do you use makeup? He also noticed the orange rings in his eyes. Senin mode, it's basically a power boost using the energy that the world has to offer. Naruto said as he looked at the massive hole. Yeah, about that massive explosion, it was me who did that. I told you guys to stay away from me because it could get crazy like this. And I don't use makeup, Datbeo. It's an effect of natural energy. I'm sorry. But that's pretty impressive, it has to be a powerful mode if it gives you this much power. After a few minutes, Amelia pulled away from Naruto and wiped her tears with a hand. Without thinking, she started to check him to see if he had any injuries. Are you okay? Are you hurt? She asked. I'm fine, Amelia, Naruto said with an amused smile. Now that this is all over, we should pack up and leave the mansion, at least until we are certain it's safe. Amelia nodded to him, and began to walk back to the mansion, but she stopped as she turned to Naruto, who looked in a different direction. Naruto? She asked as the blonde shinobi turned to her. It's nothing, he replied as he walked to Amelia. Naruto opened his eyes slowly, hearing loud noises and feeling the soothing motions of the carriage they were in. His body was heavy with fatigue, feeling unfamiliar weights on his body. He looked at two girls sleeping on him. Rem slept on his lap, holding his right hand with both hands, and she seemed to be having a good dream. Amelia rested her head on his shoulder, holding his left hand. The two of them were exhausted after they fought the witch cult, and the road was long, so of course they would fall asleep in a second. Uzumaki-san, are you awake? Naruto looked at the person who called him. He was the rider of the carriage that was sent to pick them up. His hair is gray. He wore a green uniform with a cloak and hat with a feather. What is it, Otto? I would like to thank you for giving me a payment, but I didn't expect to see the witch cult. Otto said, sounding scared. Don't worry about them. We have taken care of all of them, they won't be after us. He replied as he closed his eyes for seconds and looked at Otto in curiosity. Tell me about yourself, Otto. I'm just a merchant, and an unlucky person. I'm not very good at making the oils I sell, Otto said as his facial expression changed into a happy one. But, thank you for buying all of them. Yeah, about the oils, Naruto was the one who bought them, so he could burn the corpses of the witch cultists with fire. Those oils sure were flammable. Just to be sure that they wouldn't come back from the dead or be resurrected by their witch with magic, or some mumbo-jumbo the bad guys sometimes had. After that, Naruto and his friends packed all of their stuff. Then, they rode with Otto in his carriage. Sadly, Beatrice wasn't allowed to leave the mansion because of her contract. Naruto begged her to go with them for her safety, but she refused his offer. However, he made a promise to her that he'll come back for her. Maybe, he could find a way to set Beatrice free. Uzumaki-san, we're almost there, Otto said. Naruto nodded to him and began to wake the two up. Amelia. Rem, he said gently as he shook both of them. The blue-haired maid stirred first, her blue eyes slowly opening. She rubbed her eyes to gain focus. Naruto-kun, she stuttered. How was your sleep? He asked with a smile. Rem nodded to him with a smile and stretched out her arms as she got up from his lap. She let out a yawn and looked out of the carriage. While she was looking out, it was Amelia's turn to wake up. Naruto didn't want to ruin her sleep because she seemed to be having a good dream by looking at her face. But, he had to wake her up before they arrived at the capital. Naruto shook the half-elf in gently until she started to stir as her eyes opened slowly. The half-elf got up from his shoulder and rubbed her eyes with her hands. She took her sweet time to regain her focus and her violet eyes completely opened. Her eyes met his azure, amused ones. Tired? Naruto asked. Still tired, but I'm trying, Amelia said as she stretched her body and let out a yawn. Where are we? We're in our way to the capital. Naruto was interrupted by the carriage as it stopped suddenly. Just at the right time, he grabbed Amelia and Rem in his arms before they fell. Otto. What the hell? Why did you stop? Sorry, Uzumaki-san. Why you three should come out, he said. Why would they have to get out of the carriage? Emilia and Rem nodded to Naruto as he nodded back before getting out of the carriage. They got out, and checked over the gate as they walked past their carriage. They were surprised when they found the villagers from Rulam village. The people of Rulam village. Emilia was surprised. They waited for our return. Rem said. Naruto Nichan. Naruto looked at Petra who called him, and received a hug from her as her arms wrapped around his waist. He heard her sobbing as her face looked up at him. Hey, Petra, he said with a smile before he got a group hug by the children. Naruto Nichan, you came back, Luca said. The blonde shinobi couldn't help but let out a laugh and smiled at them. Hey, you guys are heavy, he said between laughs as he saw Mild walks in front of the people to meet him and the other two. Emilia-chan, Rem-san, Naruto-kun, she said as she started to bow to them. Thank you for saving us. You're welcome, I'm glad you're all safe. Emilia said with a smile, feeling happy to be reunited with the people that so graciously accepted her. It has been several hours ever since they returned to the capital after fighting against the witch cult. Naruto destroyed Patelgius Romani Conti with his Rasenshuriken, and their little cults are no longer bother Emilia. One half of villagers had to stay in the capital because the village in the mansion's territory wasn't safe anymore. Who knew what the witch cult would do, while they got rid of a lot of members? They were pretty sure they were more, and remaining in a position where they could easily get ambushed and attacked again wouldn't be in their best interest. Living in fear isn't living at all, or so they said. The other half of villagers should have arrived at the sanctuary already, which was the safest road to travel. Ram had to go with them, in case the witch cult would attack them. Hopefully, Rosewall will be able to protect the people, and since he wasn't in the mansion, their manpower was reduced, even if it was by a little margin. Hopefully, the villagers could be reunited with their friends and family little by little, but waiting was their best move, for now. Ellipsis. Naruto was starting to hate the clown guy for abandoning his place and leaving the village behind. Somehow Rosewall knew the witch cult was coming for the village. Him leaving even though he knew of the threat, these people posed from Rem and Ram were just so out of the blue and too much of a coincidence. The witch cult's goal was to capture Emilia and bring her to a ritual, so Satella can possess her and be reborn into this world, killing Emilia, or so he thought. Naruto clenched his fists. He wouldn't let them take Emilia away from him, from the people who loved her just because of who she was, so he promised. It seemed his quest to ensure a great future for this world was becoming more and more complex the more people he knew and the situations that arose. Naruto-kun. He heard a voice, and looked at Rem, who had a worried face. Yes. He asked a little more harsh than he would have liked. It seemed this was taking a toll on his emotional state. Are you okay? You were spaced out for a minute and, Rem said as she put her hand on his cheek to comfort him, you looked angry. She stared at his red demonic eyes that were filled with anger. The look on his face would be terrifying and demonic to anyone, but not to Rem. She wasn't afraid of Naruto, even though he told them the truth about himself and a little about the true reach of his powers, she was still not afraid of him. The truth is she knew everything about him. She listened to the conversation between Naruto and Emilia, not on purpose, of course. In any seconds now, Naruto realized he unwillingly pulled Kurama's chakra and made his face look more feral. Sorry, Rem. I didn't mean to scare you. He panicked, deactivating Kurama's chakra as his demonic features turned back normal. That was a stupid thing to do in front of her. He forgot that his and Kurama's bond was too strong, so it automatically made him draw his chakra when feeling negative emotions. It's okay. Rem shook her head as she smiled at him and still held on his cheek. I'm not scared of you. I understand that you have too many things going through your head. Helping this world could be a thought stressing to anyone. So, I take it you heard me talking with Emilia. Yes, Naruto-kun. I heard everything about you and your life. The blue-haired maid said with an apologetic smile as she looked down. I'm sorry for listening to your story without asking you. That's all right, Rem. I guess you deserve to know the truth about me, so I don't mind datbeo. Hearing his catchphrase, Rem let out a giggle. She loves when he says that. It seemed like his trademark phrase. He was such a goofball. Naruto-kun. Please tell me what happened. Huh? Naruto wondered. You were angry before and I have a feeling that you have something in your mind. If you can tell me, please do. I swear I'll do my best to help you. Rem said. That one was Naruto's fault for making such an angry face at the witch cult and at Rosewall. He wasn't going to tell her, but lying isn't an option either. He could 100% trust Emilia, Rem, Beatrice, and the others. His reluctance to tell Rem is because of her loyalty towards Rosewall, a being he didn't exactly trust. Rem and Ram have been with him for a long time after their village got destroyed by the witch cult. They're very respectful and loyal to Rosewall, and this loyalty could be a problem in the future since they owe him a great deal. Yeah, you're right, I have too many things in my head. Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head lightly. I trust you, but I won't tell you, not yet. I want to tell everyone once we are reunited. Of course, Naruto-kun. Rem said. If you're not from here, then why? Why, what? Then, why are you here? Naruto crossed his arms with a thoughtful look on his face, the one question he didn't have an answer to. I don't know. Maybe, I'm needed here to save your world and change the way it's headed. He said, looking at Rem who had nervous look on her face. What is it, Naruto-kun? When you stare with such dramatic eyes, it makes me uncomfortable. She said as her face glowed a pink hue. Perhaps I already am changing things, I don't remember you being this lively. The blonde man said as he poked her nose with his finger, surprising her. Your smile. Your laugh. I'd like to think this is little details I'm changing. Thank you. Rem smiled as she did the same to him, poking his nose. To me, you're too silly datbeo. No copying, that is my word. Naruto said pouting and looking away with a huff. Then after a few seconds, Naruto and Rem burst out their laugh together at the ridiculous situation they were both experimenting. Why are we laughing? I don't know. You made me laugh. Rem stopped laughing, she wiped away a tear. Suddenly Rem's demeanor took a turn. All right then, let's head back. Naruto paused as his sleeve was grabbed by a hand. He turned to her, and found a sad look on her face. Rem, what's wrong? The different and sudden change in feelings he was getting from her was actually worrying, no one just jumped from joy to sadness so suddenly. So, after you save this world, that means you're going back to your home? She asked. Shit, that question struck his heart like a lightning. It wasn't so simple to answer her because there was no guarantee that he could come back if he went back home, or if he could go back at all. There was no way around this possibility. Worst case scenario he went home and couldn't go back. Best case scenario Sasuke could help him travel between both worlds. Naruto doesn't know how to say this to Rem, but he'll have to be honest with her, she deserved to know, at least. He opened his mouth to speak, but got interrupted by a hug as the arms wrapped around his waist. He looked down at Rem, and heard her crying. I can't. It hurts too much, I can't accept it. When you leave this world, I'll never see you again. I never want that day to come. Her voice filled with sadness and pain. Looking down, Naruto knew that telling Rem the truth would hurt her. Rem knew that he will leave her world and go back to his homeland. Rem, never. I refuse to accept it. Rem yelled as she buried her face into his chest. I love it when you stroke my hair. It feels like we understand each other through this silly things and jokes. I really love your voice and your eyes. My heart feels warmer every time I hear you say something. Rem, Naruto said softly as he lifted her chin up with a finger to look up at him. Her face was red and completely covered with tears. Looking at her face like that, it really felt worse than lightning to his heart. You saved me in that dark forest when I lost myself and only thought of raging around. She said, holding his cheek with a hand and looked at him. You didn't run away from me and risked your life to protect me from the demon beasts. You stopped my rage. You fought, even though I thought you had no chance of winning. You came back to me alive. You said the words that I wanted to hear at the right time. You sweetly melted my frozen heart. You made a promise to me. I don't want you to leave. Right, Naruto made a promise to her that they can lean on each other, to laugh and smile together. Also, he promised Emilia that he would never leave her side. Rem, look at me. The blue-haired maid looked at Naruto with her teary face as his thumb wiped her tears. You have to understand that I don't belong here. I belong in my world. It's possible that they'll force me to go back, but, Naruto said as he pulled her into a hug. I'll find a way to get here if it's possible. I won't give up until I find a way to get back here. You're the one who made me realize how this world goes. Honestly, I want to stay here, I want to explore more of this world with you and everyone else. The blonde shinobi stared at her eyes, noticing her cheeks have turned red, and felt his hand warming. That facial expression and the heat from her cheeks, is she. Naruto-kun, I love you. I love you because you're my hero. Rem confessed her feelings for Naruto. The blonde was speechless with his eyes widened in shock. She confessed her feeling to him. Rem, he swallowed with a blush, struggling with how to respond the maid's feelings, before a finger was placed on his lip. I know, Naruto-kun, you have feelings for Emilia-sama, I watched you both. Rem smiled, closing her eyes as she placed her hands on the heart. You don't have feelings for me, but I understand why you two are perfect. You and Emilia-sama are ones and the same concerning your similar pasts, but you have been through much more pain and suffering than Emilia. Since you arrived here in my world, you have helped Emilia and me so much. Rem, is this what you want? Naruto asked, feeling bad for the blue-haired maid. His feelings were a mess in this moment because of the simple confession. Yes, this is what I want. Rem said with a bitter smile as she looked at the blonde. But, promise me I'll still be a part of your life. Can you entertain this selfish woman's desire, just this once? You're damn right. He was going to continue the sentence, but his voice got dropped. His eyes widened in shock when a soft and warm feeling met in his lip. His stomach took a turn and for some reason felt warm and tingly. His eyes were still open. Rem kissed him on the lips. She was tipping her toes to reach his height. She didn't tell him anything before kissing him. She just kissed him. After a few seconds, Rem and Naruto pulled away from each other. Their cheeks were red after the kiss, both enjoyed the sensation of their lips together, feeling strangely right. Just this once, Naruto-kun, she said, sounding remorseful but strangely calm, almost comforted. I shall take that as a promise. You cannot go back on your word now. Naruto's blush was no longer on his cheeks. He smiled at Rem, not knowing what more to do than to try and cheer her up. It'll be fine, Rem. I'll find a way to take care of everything. I'm someone who never breaks a promise, he said, his eyes looking at the maid with great care and warmth. Naruto-kun, Rem said softly as her tears kept flowing more. Thank you. Then, Naruto and Rem leaned in closer, their foreheads were now touching. Closing their eyes, both smiled at the same time. They found happiness in their life and created a new memory never forget. Sorry for taking so long, Emilia. Naruto said, walking with Emilia in the street. The silver-haired girl had to wear her cloak because the crowds still didn't like her appearance. This wasn't Earlham Village. After Naruto and Rem returned from a long break, Rem stayed behind in the hotel to rest. Right after that, Emilia told Naruto to go with her to the city because she planned to buy something. Of course he said yes. Right now, they're in the street with stores everywhere, if one could see them because it was filled with crowds. This is why Emilia brought a cloak to cover her appearance from humans. It's fine. It's fine, the half-elf said, waving her hand. She grabbed something in her pocket and took it out to show it to Naruto. Look at this, Naruto. What do you think? Naruto looked at the paper with Japanese kanji written in ink. It wasn't perfect but one could easily understand their meaning. Wow, you're getting better at this. He was amazed at the progress she was making in his language. Emilia smiled at him. Yes, it was because of your book. I used it to learn the words from there, she said. Naruto put his hands on the back of his head, and looked at Emilia. So, why are we here for? He asked. Do you remember the girl we helped in our first meet? Emilia asked as she remembered the little girl lost in the street. The blonde shinobi nodded and remembered the lost girl. That was a while back. They found her and brought her back to her parents. Before she and her mom left, her mom gave Naruto and Emilia a location where they could buy fruits, her store's location. Wow, I almost forgot about that, Naruto said with a thoughtful look on his face as he scratched his cheek lightly with a finger. He heard a giggle from Emilia which made him a little mad. Why are you laughing at me? I thought you knew everyone, but it seems you forgot her all the way back from the first day we met, Emilia said, covering her mouth to resist her giggles. Puck was right about you. You may be a shinobi, but you have a short memory. What? I don't have a short memory, but more importantly, I can't believe you agree with him. Emilia, that hurts my feelings. Naruto yelled as the silver-haired girl started to laugh at him now. He narrowed his eyes in slight embarrassment, already planning his revenge. An idea came to mind and he poked her on her side in retaliation and she let out a squeal. Emilia started to poke back to him on his side with a finger for poking her, and gave him another one, but she let out a laugh when Naruto poked her several times. They narrowed their eyes and entered ridiculous stances, not caring for the people watching them. The scene was weird because their pokes were now a martial art of its own. The pokes were blurs and they seemed to be in a serious match. The blonde shinobi grinned softly, but quickly reacted and grabbed her waist before she accidentally ran into some random people. He sighed with relief until he took a strong poke in his ribs. The half-elf had the gall to giggle at him when he glared at her. "Gotcha," she said with a smile. "Wow, I saved your life, and now you poke me. Maybe I should have dropped you," Naruto said, looking away as if looking at that very scenario. "How mean of you," Emilia said in a childish way as she glared at him with cute pout while poking her tongue out. Her facial expression changed into a happy one as she smiled at him. "But, thank you." Naruto smiled at her back as he and Emilia continued on the street. Before continuing, a hand caught his hand which got his attention. He turned to look at the half-elf who had a blush on her face. "Emilia," the blonde shinobi asked. "See, can I hold your hand again?" Emilia asked as her hand gripped his hand, and she looked at him. I felt comfortable holding your hand, Naruto. I feel safe with you, so, can we hold hands again?" Naruto couldn't help but blush when he looked at her face. Her face was that of an angel. That thought made his heart skip a beat. "All right," he accepted as he held her hand. Finally, they continued to walk on the street and found the fruit shop. The walk wasn't long when Naruto and Emilia stopped by a small shop with fruits. They met the seller who had a muscular body. His hair is green with a hairband. He wore a black vest, and 2 bracelets lined his wrists. "Are you Kadoman Rish?" Naruto asked. "Huh, how do you know my name?" Kadoman asked. "Well, you see, it was your wife who gave us your name and your location. We're here to buy your fruit," Emilia said as she looked over the fresh fruits while Naruto kept looking at the seller, that seemed to be analyzing them. The man's eyes light up in recognition. "My wife told you. Oh, I remember. She told me about you too because you found my daughter," Kadoman said with a smile. "As a reward for finding my daughter, you can get it for free, but just this once." Oh no, we can't do that to you. It's all right. I really appreciate your help, so please take them for free. You earned it." Naruto and Emilia looked at each other with smiles when they learned they could get their fruits for free. A couple of minutes later, Naruto had a bag of red apples in his arm. Emilia thanked the seller for giving them free fruit. They were going to head back, but they saw a crowd looking at the board. "Oh, if you're curious what's going on, the royal election started. You too can look at the board, but I highly look at the top first," Kadoman said as he pointed at the board with 2 familiar pictures. The board got Naruto interested as he walked toward the crowd and looked over them. His eyes found 2 pictures of 2 candidates on the top one. The first picture is Crush. The second picture is Anastasia. Taking a good guess, the nobilities must have voted for them. The other 3 candidates are on the bottom, underneath the top 2. Naruto saw Emilia's picture is on the second row next to Priscilla. He sighed in disappointment at the nobilities for judging Emilia by her appearance. It wasn't good for him when he heard the crowd criticizing Emilia. "Naruto," Emilia said, holding his hand as she pulled him away from the board before he became more uncomfortable. With luck, she managed to make him look at her. "Let's go." Naruto sighed calmly, his anger cooling down as he held her hand back. "All right," he said as they left the market and ignored the board. After several minutes, they're on halfway to the hotel. Emilia kept looking at Naruto because she felt his anger. She finally understands why he went so far for her, that day. "I don't want you to go through that life, like me. People hated me and treated me like a demon because I have the Kyuubi." Emilia gripped Naruto's hand and laid her head on his arm. "Naruto," she said softly. "Yeah?" he asked. I understand why you went so far for me. Life didn't give us a good hand. To tell you the truth, I never understood people's feelings and emotions," she said as she and Naruto stopped on the sidewalk. She sees his azure eyes staring at her purple eyes. "But, when you told me about your life and your story, I finally understood why people get hurt by their feelings. They lost their loved ones who died in a war to protect their family. You said family to Ram because he and felt are family. They've been watching each other backs way too long to not be considered family. You were right. Ram and felt are family because they cared about each other. Family is special and important because it can give you love. Naruto said as he pointed at her chest with a finger. Look at parents. Parents care about you because they love you, they sacrifice everything for you and more. They raise people because they love them, not because they have to. About your parents, Naruto, I'm still sorry about you going through so much pain and suffering without them. Emilia said as she remembered his parents died by sacrificing their lives for him. She at least had her aunt. You have gone through an experience so much like mine. I have experienced this kind of life because of my looks. People hate me, but I understand why they hate me. The reason why the witch cult targets me is because I am a half-elf that looks exactly like. The bag was dropped on the ground and Emilia was cut off from her last word by a hand that grabbed her and pulled her to hug. She let out a gasp and looked it up to Naruto, who embraced her with 2 arms. His eyes were closed, but she can tell his facial expression was worried and sad. Maybe saying the name, Satella, to herself is off-limit for him. When Naruto embraced her, she felt nice and warm feelings from him. Her face glowing a red hue. Don't ever say that word again, never again, Naruto said softly. You have nothing to do with the witch cult and nothing to do with that witch, to hell with anyone that tells you otherwise. You're Emilia, you're a strong girl who never gives up, and you're one of the kindest people I know. Most importantly, you're my friend. Emilia's eyes widened in shock and her tears started to fall down her face. She accepted his embrace fully and her head was buried into his chest. To be honest, she had never received a hug from anyone. This is the first time that someone else other than Puck hugged her. Naruto. Yes, would you do me the honor of being my knight? Emilia asked with a smile as she wiped her tears. Naruto blinked his eyes and pulled away from her a bit with a surprised expression. His expression turned into a gentle one before he grinned as he grabbed Emilia around her waist, picking her up and spinning her around. Kya! Emilia let out a cute scream, holding on to him. Yes, I would love to be your knight. Naruto nearly shouted as he continued to spin. Naruto, can you put me down? She asked as the blonde shinobi came to a slow stop and placed her down with a smile. Looking at his smile, she was happy to see him smiling again. The silver-haired girl realized his arms were still wrapped around her waist. She blushed lightly at his action before backing up slowly out of his arms. Naruto, I'm happy you accepted to be my knight, but there's more I want to say. She said with a blush, preparing to confess her feeling to him. According to a book that detailed the feelings a maiden feels when in love, she considered seriously if what she felt for Naruto was love. But it was better to give a shot rather than cry in remorse, or so they say. Sure, what is it? Naruto asked. Oh my. What do we have here, Nya? Naruto and Emilia heard a familiar voice as they turned to meet the person. They found a cute cat female, not exactly the person Naruto wanted to see again, because he triggered his Haku-related PTSD, he couldn't trust appearances anymore. Hello Nya. I'm glad you're all safe. Crush said with relief, drinking alcohol in front of Naruto and Emilia. After Ferris found them, he brought them to Crush's house to visit her. Naruto and Emilia had explained to Crush everything about the witch cult attack. Yes, we were attacked by the witch cult. We had to evacuate everyone from there, but we split them up. Ram is there with them and Rosewall is there too. The others are here to live in the capital in the meantime. Emilia said. A person named Patelgius Romani Conti. He's a sloth, or something like that. Naruto said dismissively. Crush placed the cup down as she looked at the blonde man. Yes, the witch cult's 6 cardinals, titled as the deadly sins. Each of them bears the name of a deadly sin from the 6 witches who aren't the witch of envy. Sloth, greed, gluttony, lust, wrath, and pride. These are the names of the deadly sins. She said as her expression turned into an interested one. I'm impressed that you defeated Patelgius of Sloth. He was nothing special, but he was a danger, so I had to put him down. He said, crossing his arms as he has gotten serious about 6 cardinals of sin. Patelgius died by the Recenshuriken, so that meant that there's now only 5 cardinals of sin left. Their goal is to restore or break the seal, the Witch of Envy. According to the story, she had been sealed for the last 400 years. The sage, the dragon, and the sword saint were the ones who sealed Satella. Breaking the seal was said to be impossible, but was it? There's no way the 5 cardinals of sins can break the seal, or can they? What would they do now that a cardinal was dead? What type of power would they need to break the seal, if it was possible at all? Why did Satella kill the other 6 witches? Why did she try to destroy the world? Satella, the witch cult, the sins, the witches, all of them were surrounded by questions that lacked an answer. For the first time, he was thinking about her. His heart ached a bit because he started to realize something. I love you. I'm sorry. Her voice sounded so familiar to Naruto. He doesn't know why he thinks that, but her voice sounded familiar to him. It was filled with sadness and suffering. It was like they knew each other from before this whole mess. Naruto. Naruto. Naruto felt someone shake him and he turned to see Emilia. Huh, what's up, Emilia? He asked. You were spacing out, Emilia said, concerned as she stared at his face. Naruto had that same expression from yesterday while heading back to the mansion. Sorry for spacing, Naruto replied as he looked at Crush. Yeah, Betelgeuse is definitely dead. That is one down. The 5 cardinals of sin to go, am I correct? Yes, you are correct, but I want to warn you about them. They killed so many people in the past and they were strong too, so do not hold back. She warned. Yeah, I'll keep that in my mind, Naruto said as he crossed his arms. You know, I just realized that all the 5 candidates are always busy, right? In response to a certain occurrence, my family is currently gathering people and objects. Plus, since word of the royal selection spread, I've received proposals every day. I'm sure the other candidates have as well. Hey, Emilia said with a blush as the blonde shinobi was about to choke when he took water in a glass. He lightly hit his chest, and then looked at Emilia and Crush. Proposals? You mean marriage? He shocked. I'm already 20. It wouldn't be weird for me to be engaged to someone. It could also work in my favor depending on who it is. Crush said with a sly smile, looking at Naruto as she decided to mess with Emilia. Emilia didn't tell you that she received some proposals as well. Hey, the silver-haired girl yelled in embarrassment, trying in vain to stop her from playing around with her and Naruto. What? Naruto yelled as he looked at Emilia with an unreadable expression on his face. Emilia, is this true? Wait, and Naruto. Crush let a giggle escape her mouth at the two who now have the red-colored face and a totally serious one. Forgive me, Emilia and Naruto, I simply couldn't resist. Candidates are forbidden to become engaged during the royal election to prevent any unneeded faction wars. I was going to tell you this, Emilia said nervously with a relieved smile. Oh, Naruto said, starting to calm down as he sat down back on a chair. Emilia, you have a good knight on your side. I admit that, Crush said with a smile as she looked at the silver-haired girl who had a blush. Anyways, what will you do tomorrow? Pretty easy. We'll go back to the mansion, and then head to the sanctuary. Naruto said. Before you go there, the path you took when you first came is currently closed off. You'll have to take a detour. Crush said. Huh, why? What's going on there? He asked. There's currently mist on that path. If you don't know about the mist is created by the Hokage. Crush said. Oh, Naruto understood as he remembered back in the forest when he was going back to the mansion with Emilia. He was in Sennin mode and found a large mana source that caught his attention. Why not just fight the Hokage? I know that's a stupid question, but I understand what you're trying to say, but it isn't that simple. Hokage is one of the 3 great demon beasts. However, I'm already prepared for that, Crush said as she looked at Emilia. Emilia, Naruto Uzumaki has defeated Betelgeuse Romani Conti. What do you want from him? Emilia wondered. I'm going to need your assistance. Thank you for listening. I do hope you guys enjoy. If you guys enjoyed this, what if you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notifications, and also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.